Have you ever felt lonely even when surrounded by many people? According to Buddha's teachings, we humans bear the fate of loneliness from birth until death. For example, we are born alone. We leave this world alone. Even when surrounded by cherished family and friends on life's journey, it is extremely difficult for them to fully understand the secrets and thoughts hidden in the deepest part of our hearts. Now, through a story, I want to reveal why the more decent a person is, the lonelier they become. By the end of this video, your understanding of loneliness will deepen, and you'll know how to face it. Once upon a time, in a Japanese countryside village, the wind heralding autumn's arrival blew. Shuman, the village elder, had passed away. He was respected by the villagers because he had contributed greatly to the village. He was respected by the villagers, yet for some reason he was always alone. While mourning his death, the villagers wondered about the reason for his loneliness. His achievements were truly remarkable. He had improved the village roads and bridges, built schools and hospitals, and created an environment where villagers could live in peace. Yet he never confided his inner struggles or thoughts to anyone, always secluded in his mansion, spending his days alone. On the day of the funeral, the village fell silent. At Chuman's mansion, villagers formed a line, praying in his memory. Amid the rising incense smoke, the villagers shared memories of Khamon. He was a strict man, but he always had the village's best interests at heart, though I never saw him smile. He always seemed lonely, even after becoming wealthy. Perhaps he never found happiness. Unconsciously, the villagers labeled Kuman a sad man and felt pity for him. They imagined his character and values, talked about them, and lost themselves in memories. Amidst this, a traveling monk arrived in the village. Hearing the villagers talk, the monk began speaking to Shizuka. "This man passed away alone, didn't he?" The villagers were startled by the monk's words. It was as if he had seen through Khamon's entire life. "I am a traveling monk who has come from afar." Might I speak a little about this man's life? The villagers invited the monk into the mansion. Sitting in the large room of the residence, the monk began speaking to Shizuka. "First, everyone, please be at ease. Kuman met a very happy end." The villagers looked puzzled, but the monk continued. "Do you know the saying, 'Born alone, die alone'? This means one is born alone and dies alone. Even twins are born and die alone." What secret lies deep within the heart? No one can ever fully understand it. The monk went on. "Then, everyone, why do you think people feel lonely?" The villagers pondered the monk's question. Then an old man spoke up. "Surely, it's because we hold something inside our hearts, something heavy." At the old man's words, the monk smiled gently. "That's right. Everyone, within our hearts lies an invisible burden. In Buddhism, we call this burden wabo." The monk continued his explanation slowly, observing the villagers. Wabo encompasses everything we have ever done. Good deeds and bad deeds, all are included, and afterwards they become engraved within our hearts and accumulate. That accumulated karma is stored in the deepest part of the heart, called the arayashiki. The arayashiki is like a vast warehouse within the heart. The villagers listened intently to the monk's words with serious expressions. The karma accumulated in the arayashiki. Our perspectives and feelings are profoundly influenced by this. In other words, the world we see every day is colored by our own karma, our past actions. That's why, even living in the same world, people perceive things differently. One person may feel joy, while another feels sorrow. This is because the accumulated karma within each heart differs. Now then, how did Koman feel about being alone? The monk surveyed the villagers and continued. This is where the issue of loneliness becomes deeply relevant. We cannot directly know the contents of another person's storehouse consciousness. We cannot know what kind of karma they have accumulated or the deepest thoughts within their heart. That is precisely why we sometimes cannot help but feel profound loneliness. We feel that there is no one who can fully understand the inner workings of our own heart. The monk glanced at Koman. In the case of Lord Koman, we also have no way of knowing the contents of his storehouse consciousness at the time of his parting. Perhaps he had accumulated many good deeds, like the gourd that silently strives to become wealthy. But there might have been other deeds we never knew about. Precisely because it's difficult for us to fully understand the reason for Lord Koman's loneliness, we should refrain from assuming he was a sad person. The villagers nodded deeply at the monk's words. Only the person themselves knows why they choose to act alone. That's precisely why I felt once again that we shouldn't judge based on assumptions. A young man asked the monk, "Why did a noble figure like you, Reverend Choman, choose to live in solitude? Given that you were respected by everyone and worked so hard for the village, shouldn't you have stepped forward more and received praise?" The monk smiled at the young man's question and replied, "Indeed, that's a good question. Truthfully, the more upright a person is, the more likely they are to choose a solitary path." The villagers. The young man was startled by the monk's words. How could living uprightly be connected to a tendency toward loneliness? There are two main reasons. The monk began his explanation. The first is adhering to one's own values and beliefs. Upright people hold dear what they believe to be right. They won't bend their opinions just because others think differently. But ordinary people prefer to conform to those around them. They dislike those who express their opinions clearly. Consequently, those who stand by their convictions tend to become isolated. The second reason is deep thinking. Upright people think deeply, striving to see the true nature of things. They are not satisfied with superficial common sense and seek the truth. But the average person dislikes deep thinking and follows easily accepted common sense. Those who think deeply often become different from those around them. This is why upright people become lonely, because their values, beliefs, ways of thinking, and ways of living. Those who choose to reach their goals are different. Walking a solitary path is not easy, but it may be a necessary choice to fulfill one's life purpose. The villagers found the monk's words deeply convincing. Iman, too, held fast to his convictions, thought deeply about things, and sought richness of heart. He was an upright man who lived with foresight. Finally, the monk told everyone, "Solitude may be the destiny of those who live uprightly, but it is never a sad thing. By facing solitude and conversing with ourselves, we can find meaning in our lives." Through this story, I hope you felt the importance of the courage to face solitude and a compassionate heart. Living uprightly may sometimes be a lonely journey, but at the end of that path surely awaits spiritual richness and true happiness. The monk's words resonated deeply within the villagers' hearts. Through Choman's life, they learned the meaning of confronting loneliness and living with integrity. The villagers expressed their gratitude to the monk and vowed to walk their own paths in life. The autumn wind It seemed to carry the villager's new resolve, and there, sleeping peacefully, as if to say he had lived his life to the fullest, lay Chueman, watching over them all with great contentment. That concludes the story. Now, let us delve deeper into the essence of loneliness. Please stay with me until the end. First, I'll quote from the great Amitabha Sutra. Poison is neutralized and solitary beings are saved. This means that fundamentally, we are solitary beings from the beginning to the end of our lives. Even twins are born one at a time. We are born one at a time. During our lives, we meet important people like family, friends, and lovers. But these are physical connections. The reality is that it's difficult to understand each other completely, deep down in our hearts, because we cannot put into words all the thoughts within our own hearts. No matter how close we are to someone, there are things we can talk about and things we cannot. Even if we put them into words, it's impossible for the other person to understand us 100%. Everyone holds a secret part within their heart that absolutely cannot be understood by others. The reason we cannot fully understand each other is that each person has accumulated different life experiences. These experiences accumulate within the heart, shaping the world each person sees. Therefore, it is impossible to completely understand the world another person has built based on their own experiences. Life may be a solitary journey through loneliness and anxiety. As the monk explained in the story, those who live with integrity tend to adhere to their own values and beliefs and think deeply about things. Consequently, they often find themselves at odds with those around them or dissatisfied with superficial common sense, those who tend to isolate themselves. On the other hand, those who are not genuine, meaning people who don't hold fast to their own values, who pander to others, and who don't think deeply, may superficially seem less prone to loneliness. This is because they experience less friction with those around them and find it easier to build superficial relationships. However, those who are not upright ultimately fall prey to a harmful kind of loneliness. This is because they hide their true selves and suppress their genuine feelings and values to fit in with others. Furthermore, because they avoid confronting their inner selves and pursuing their authentic identity, they may lose sight of life's meaning or purpose and feel emptiness. To summarize, regardless of whether one lives properly or not, everyone must confront loneliness. The difference lies in the nature of that loneliness. The loneliness of the proper person arises from choosing their own path, even when it conflicts with others' opinions. Conversely, the loneliness of the improper person stems from suppressing their true self to conform to others. At the same time, we must not forget compassion. Everyone lives earnestly while carrying their own loneliness. Even if truly understanding each other is difficult, we can still show compassion and support one another. In conclusion, the more upright a person is, the more lonely they become, because they fear loneliness not and can uphold their convictions. It is precisely because they possess the strength to confront their beliefs that they can continually question the meaning of their own life. Loneliness is the destiny of those who live uprightly. Thank you for watching until the end today. May everyone be happy.